Hi, Sean. Good afternoon. How are you?
Good, Matt. How are you?
Good. If you look at the stat sheet from the defense, there's a lot of like eye-popping numbers from yesterday. I mean, you guys did a great job up front. On the back end, obviously Taylor stepping in and Christian Benford with a big game. Terrell Bernard, like you look at his name and not a lot jumps out, but I remember one play in particular. I think it was the second down. Ed and Jordan were coming onto the field a little bit late and were kind of got positioned really quickly. And it was the Taylor wrap tackle for a loss. And Terrell moved him over, screamed out the communication, got him into the right gap, and that ends up opening things up for Taylor. Can you take us into what you've seen from Terrell Bernard and how important some of that pre-snap stuff has been for the success of your defense?
Right. I mean, that's part of the job description of a middle linebacker, and that's why that job is so all-encompassing, if you will, and it's so why it's so challenging for a young player, a rookie, or in this case, a second-year player to come in and handle all of that, in addition to just handling their responsibilities in terms of the plays that they're supposed to make and being where they're supposed to be. Right. So they have to know how to handle and orchestrate the whole defense, and that's what you saw yesterday, in particular on that play.
Mm-hmm. And then flipping it over to the offensive side, I mean, you have a 4 game sample size with Joe running the show over there. 30 plus points in 3 games, and maybe could have scored that many against Kansas City if a couple things go right. What have you seen from him that's allowed him to take over midseason and have this thing humming the way that it has?
Well, I just think there's just a different energy more than anything. Plays are plays, as I've said before. How we're running those plays, that's a little bit different also. So I think that's really where it starts. It's just a different energy overall.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey Sean. You guys have been very good in December and January over the past few years. I know the team changes here and there every season, but what has made you guys, from your perspective, so good come crunch time?
That's a great question. I feel like schedule wise, we try and make sure that the guys have a schedule that's conducive for them playing their best down the stretch. You know, I think probably more than anything too, it's very dialed in this time of year. Not that they're not normally, but I think most teams this time of year are very dialed in, and then just fundamentally continuing to improve every week. I think that's, hey, you take a step. This past week, next week we need to take another step, and just continuing to make that your goal every week is to improve.
And can you evaluate the performance of Taron Johnson yesterday? Seemed like he had a quality performance after dealing with some injury during the week.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. He was very effective in the slot, made some tackles in the run game, made some plays on the ball, and I think CD was in there in the slot sometimes. Probably 50% of the time, roughly. Don't go by my analytics on that, but I thought Taron was very effective in that.
And finally, Leonard Floyd, Ed Oliver mentioned his savviness and how that's allowed him to really affect the quarterback this year, and I'm sure in the past. Have you seen that rub off on some of the other guys, just his savviness in the pass rush and just overall experience?
I would agree with that. Flo's been a good addition. He's he's not the biggest guy, but he's tough. He's as tough as they come. He plays the run. He plays the pass. Um, he's been a good addition to our team. I mean, he's got the right mindset. He plays every week. Um, I'm just grateful for him, really.
All right, thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Hey, Sean, just brought up Leonard, and I was actually going to ask you about Ed. So, they were praising each other after the game yesterday, but what have you seen from Ed this year that has kind of really unlocked this next level of play that he's kind of unleashed?
Yeah, maturity. I think that's in one word. Not that he wasn't mature before, but not just maturing on a personal level, maturing as a football player, building his awareness of how he gets blocked, of how offenses play in the NFL week to week, and how sometimes that can change. Sometimes they copy, what happened the week before, even. So I think his just development, his maturity, You know, he's really becoming a true pro in his preparation. So I couldn't be more pleased with the way he's performed this year.
I know it was something you alluded to a couple weeks ago. I don't remember exactly what week it was, but is there any update on Daquan Jones and a potential return for him? Is that still something that is possible?
Well, he continues to improve. You know, really where we're at right now is just continue to take it one day at a time and seeing where it goes.
All right, cool. And I missed the Windows screensaver this week, so maybe you get it next week.
Yeah, we took a lot of heat about that, so we shifted to the other end of the office here, and yeah, so I don't want to get details for Derek's sake, but yeah, we took a lot of heat on it. He did, at least.
Thanks, Sean.
Sure.
Coach, good afternoon. Mookie Hawkins, Well for Sports 1080. Victory Monday again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mookie, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Coach. Now that you to watch film, just kind of talk about how well that the coverage and rush intertwined to keep Dallas timing off sync there.
Yeah, I mean, they worked well together. There was great symmetry between the two. You know, when you look at the film, there wasn't a lot of areas to throw windows into open receivers. It was rather tight, and then the rush was able to affect him at the key moments and within the down there. So it was good to see.
Absolutely, Coach. And, you've been having some good success on the offensive side the past 4 weeks. Just care to talk about how Mike Shula, veteran, leadership has been instrumental in that change. How has that helped?
Well, Mike's to your point, he is very experienced. He's played the position. He's been a coordinator, before as well as a head coach. And I think Mike's experience, allows him to be very calm. And I think that's valued by offensive coaches, offensive players, and in particular quarterbacks.
Absolutely, Coach. And your running game was just bar none, just all three of the guys, was quite serviceable. But Ty Johnson did get nicked up a little bit. Will that open the door for potential Leonard Fournette in the coming weeks?
We'll see. We'll see where it goes. We need to continue to evaluate Ty this week and see how he does. And but it's good knowing that Lenny's around, and I think Lenny's gotten better every week since he's been here, and he's been a good addition to our team.
Absolutely, Coach. Have a great week.
All right, you too. Thanks.
Hey, Sean.
Hi, John.
Bless you, John Worrell. Speaking of injuries, any updates on Jordan Phillips, Micah Hyde, and Epinesa?
Yeah, so AJ and Micah are both improving. And then Jordan Phillips underwent wrist surgery last night, and so he'll be out at this point. We'll see for we'll call it week to week at this point, and then we'll know more as we move here in the next couple of days.
Gotcha. That's tougher on Jordan. Going to your running game, and how far do you think, just having the mere threat of what you guys have showed over the past few weeks, and especially yesterday, have a chance to opening up your offense, and where was this running game before?
The running game was here. It's just, it's all a matter of blending the run and the pass. And I thought Joe did a great job yesterday sticking with it, as I said after the game. And the offensive line stayed with it too. I mean, to continue to do it throughout the course of the game, I think was really their mindset last night. And it was good symmetry between Joe as a play caller and the offensive group as a whole, and the offensive coaches, Coach Cromer, all the coaches really with their commitment to staying with the run.
And how much do you think this might, just the mere threat of it, might have a chance to open up your offense, moving forward?
Well, it can. Yeah, I mean, if we handle it the right way, it can, and it's all a big, a part of the overall plan, and trying to be a two-dimensional offense, and the threat of that, I think is important, especially this time of year.
Thanks, Sean.
Sure.
Hey, Coach, you guys will be on a short week this week as you're getting ready to face the Chargers. What do you have to be ready for when you're facing an interim head coach in his first game?
Yeah, there'll be some unknowns as you go into the game, and in particular the first game, right? That's it's always tough, always a challenge. Um, and then a somewhat of a newer quarterback on top of that with very little film. So it'll be a challenge that I'm sure they'll be fired up, and we've got to travel out west, and so on a short week, as you said. So it'll be an important week for us here.
Thanks, Coach.
Coach McDermott, Pat Freeman from the Buffalo Criterion. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, Pat. How are you?
I'm good. I asked you a question yesterday in the press conference about the Deion Dawkins block. I know you've seen it on film. It's hard to see from the field. Is that the type of play that exemplifies what you have preached here since your arrival?
Well, like I said, finishing plays, man, is so important, right? It's not the play necessarily. Is what's important is how you run the play and how you run the plays. So I think that's just a great example to me of players taking pride in how they do things, and the coach is doing a great job of coaching it and emphasizing it, because as a coach, as you know, a lot of times you get what you emphasize, and if you don't emphasize it, it's hard to get it right. So just extremely proud of the way the coaches have coached this season, and the players and how they followed through on the message.
Last question to you, Coach. With you announcing the surgery to Jordan Phillips, have you discussed any moves with Brandon Beane at this point?
Have we discussed? I'm sorry.
About any moves, bringing somebody in this week as far as replacing him on the roster?
We're looking at that. Brandon's currently looking at that. So nothing right now, but something could take place for the next couple of days potentially.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
Sure thing.
Hey, Sean, Josh Reed here. Thanks for taking some time this afternoon. You guys did a great job the secondary did a great job against CeeDee Lamb, and you go back the entire season, whether it was Mike Evans or even a couple of weeks ago with Travis Kelce, you haven't let the other team's number one wide receivers. Jamar Chase is another one, just completely wreck a game. What goes into that as a secondary, and kind of maybe focusing a little bit on, hey, if the other team's going to beat us, it can't be that guy.
Yeah, I mean, we've faced a number of them this year. We'll face another one this week, and in terms of accounting for a large portion of the Chargers offense and Keenan Allen. So a lot of respect for him. I just think it's overall the plan. I think it's the execution of the plan by the players and the coaches, and just being intentional about it. If you allow a number one player or number one receiver in this case to have a day, it's hard to win. And we see that on our side with Steph, right? And if he goes off, it's now you're dealing with a double-headed situation there, the two-headed monster. So you don't want to have to deal with that. So we do the best that we can week to week of managing that production from the number one wide receiver position at least.
Great. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate your time.
Sure, Josh.
Hey, Sean, AJ here. Hope you're doing well. Early in the game, on the first drive of the game, James Cook had a run. He goes for about 5 yards. Then he gets pushed by everybody else about 7 yards, gets a first down. I feel like it's one thing for that to happen at the goal line, 3rd and 1, something like that. But when you see a play like that, just a regular first down at midfield, what does that kind of tell you about the mentality, the mindset of what you guys are maybe going to have the rest of the game?
Yeah, I think it tells me the guys are there, right? They're there mentally, they're there physically, and they wanted it. And to do that early in the game, to your point, in the middle of the field, you don't see that a lot, especially one that went for as long or as far as that went. And I think that really fired up the crowd, it fired up the guys, and that was great to see.
Your offensive line, they've had, a lot of continuity this season. How much do you think that has helped them kind of grow and progress as the season's gone along?
Continuity is important, right? When you play, especially the offensive line, sometimes you're only as good as the sum of the parts, right? And so being able to have everyone on the same page, to see things in a similar way. I think Mitch was talking about this last night in his press conference about making sure they ID things the right way, making sure they're working to the right player in the run game, and even when they weren't, they were all on the same page. As they say, when you're wrong, at least they were all right, right? So I think that's critical.
All right, thanks for your time.
Sure.
Yes, good afternoon.
George, I think you went on mute. I lost you here.
Okay, let me go. Here we
There
go.
you
Can
go.
you hear me now?
I got you. Go ahead.
Great. Question is, what is the resurgence with the running game, and why did it seem to take so long this season? It seems like the offensive line is starting to gel now with the running game.
I don't know. I feel like the run game has been with us, rather respectively all season. There's going to be weeks where it doesn't, show up as much, like the passing game yesterday. It's, as an offense, you want to stay with what's working or what they're giving you. You want to take that as much as you can, and so, we'll see where it goes this week. But very rarely do you come out and say, "Hey, we're going to do X." Because the game's about adjusting as well. So I think that's just as important as anything.
Was this one of those games where it's weird, where you continued to run and seemed like the Cowboys, in this case, your opponent, the Dallas Cowboys, didn't seem to were able to adjust to it throughout the entire game? That's just one of those oddities that took place?
Yeah, I mean, that's a question for them more so. I thought Joe Brady caught a really good game and the players executed. So that's the piece we could control at least.
All righty. Thank you for your time, Coach, and good luck this coming week.
Okay. Thanks, George.
That's all the questions for today. Thanks, Coach.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Hey, Joe, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
All right, we will get started with questions. First question will be from Thad.
Hey, Joe, how you doing?
How you doing, bud?
Hey, from the outside, the NFL coaching profession kind of seems like sometimes a competition to out-genius the next guy, to think of the brand new thing, and that going with something simple and obvious and making it work might be an underrated skill. But it seems like it's one, especially yesterday, calling all those run plays in a row. It seems like it's something that you do well. How fair are both of those assessments in your opinion?
Like, I don't think you're ever trying to out-genius. I got let go of my last job when you try to think like that, right? You're just trying to figure out what your players do well and just, if it's working, just keep that rolling. And the guys did a great job, blocking up front that, made my life a little easier last night. And so I think you try to find the weaknesses in the defense, but you don't just try to find the weakness. You just try to find the weaknesses that match up with your strengths. And I felt like that was something that, we were able to find a way yesterday.
Is being willing to go with maybe the simple obvious or maybe the way you say it, what's working, something that you wanted to make an emphasis of doing better in your next job?
Yeah, I think I told myself I'll always make it about the players. Not saying I tried to be a genius the last one, but sometimes I think you try to overthink it and you try to feel like you gotta put this person in this position, you gotta put this person in this position. Sometimes you just have to trust your guys, give them the ownership and let them deliver. And I've been very fortunate, just the guys that have been around right here, and just that they're just having a lot of fun, having a lot of energy, and it's exciting to watch from the booth. That's for sure.
Sean just talked about the energy as being a big part of what you've done differently, or maybe brought to this team in terms of your new role as the coordinator here. How much of that has been an emphasis? And I know we talked about it a little bit, but in terms of keeping it up week to week to week, it's probably easy to have energy week one, but when you're doing it over and over, to be able to keep that going, how difficult has that been?
I mean, it's not difficult because it's kind of who I am and it's kind of who we are. I think on a week to week, if you're having to change who you are off of a win or a loss, or just on a day to day, then I think that's when people will question you. And so I try to pride myself on being the same person every single day. And I think we have a lot of guys in the building that are the same way. And so no matter who we're facing, no matter what happened on the outcome, if we believe in our process and we believe in who we are with our energy, that we're going to be the same day to day.
Appreciate the time, Joe. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Coach Brady, Mookie Hawkins, Waffle Sports 1080. Good win yesterday, Coach.
Thank you.
Now, how do you deal with, we already know that you got some sort of game plan going into the game, an idea, right? But you found success by running the ball. I'm not sure if that was quite the game plan, but how do you incorporate your original game plan with what's going on in game?
Well, like I'm probably a broken record when I say this, but there's a way to win every game, and the other coaches get paid too, right? And so we think we have an idea going into the game about, hey, how we think this is how they might play it, or this is how we think our guys are going to respond to something, and then sometimes we get that, sometimes we don't, and it's it's critical that we find that whatever that is that is working, or try to continue to try to find whatever that is if it's not. And so, I think last night was just a product of, I don't think anybody envisioned being able to have that much success. I'm not going to sit here and say I knew that going into the game, but I felt confident in the guys up front. I felt confident we'd be able to run the football, and, it wasn't broken. So why try to fix it? And, I was proud of the way that the guys responded and kind of how they played. And, they didn't blink. They were like, do it again. And just seeing our receivers and our tight ends, even Josh, just the way that they were playing, knowing that the pass game wasn't the emphasis. It was a lot of fun to see.
Absolutely, Coach. And how has Mike Shula been instrumental with, you being the play caller?
Schulz is awesome. I mean, he brings a load of experience, so he's great for me, does a great job with ideas and just, keeping me kind of present. Sometimes, you can get overwhelmed a little bit early in the week. You trying to figure out the defense, and he does a great job of just kind of keeping me level-headed, and brings so as much help as me as it is for the quarterbacks. And so I'm grateful for him to be here.
Coach, you've been 4 games in at the helm. This team has struggled with a rhythm. This team has struggled with identity. What would you say would be this offensive identity the last 4 games?
Honestly, I think part of the identity is that we're finding different ways to win, and I know that's not even really an answer, but I think that's important. We're trying to build to something bigger, and the more that we can do, the different ways that we can find ways to win. At the end of the day, we're just trying to find that way. And if we've showed if we have to throw the ball 50 times, putting everything on Josh, we've shown that we can find a way to get that done. And yesterday was evident that we can do the complete opposite. And so, just having faith that we know that it's going to be different week to week, and as long as we find that way. I know that's not an identity. That might be a lot of just words, but I think our guys believe that whatever happens, no matter what happens, just find a way to score one more point than them. I hope that ends up being our identity.
Absolutely, Coach. Thank you for your time. Enjoy the holidays.
Thanks. Thank you, too.
Yeah, hey, Coach. James Cook doing things that we haven't seen from a Bills running back since Thurman Thomas. What have you seen from him throughout the course of this season that's allowed him to take such a significant step in an increased role this season?
I mean, I think he's just, you can see the confidence that he's playing with. And just like any running back, you get some touches, you kind of see it a little more, and, the game kind of slows down for you, right? He's a second-year player, and, with experience comes, just the confidence and seeing the holes, seeing the cuts, getting a feel of how defenses are trying to play. And I think he's doing a great job as the season's going on of getting comfortable in there. And, the O-line's doing an absolutely amazing job of opening up the holes where, makes life a little easier for the running back to, get 4 yards before he's getting touched and whatnot. But Jimbo's doing a great job, and I'm loving being able to get him going in the pass game as well. He's making a lot of plays.
And Mookie mentioned the game plan. Cook finished with a career high in touches. Was there an idea leading into the game that you might see that as the game wore on, or is that more of a product of just how the game played out?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be lying to you if I said, hey, the second half, my intent was to throw 4 or 5 passes. But it was kind of how the flow of the game was going and the way that he was running the football. And, look, Ty did a great job in there. And, I always feel confident when Latavius is in there. But Jimbo was doing, as long as he was out on the field, good things were happening yesterday. And it might not be that way every week, but, the way that he was running the rock, it was hard to take it out of his hands.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Hey, Joe, John Worrell, AP.
How you doing, John?
I'm fascinated by like this whole aspect of being out geniused or out geniusing yourself, because when it comes to failure, no one likes to admit to failure, but Sean McDermott has always said one of the most valuable things that have happened to him was him getting fired in Philly in retrospect. How much of a turning point was and what I mean, I guess, what did you get out of what happened, as difficult as it was in Carolina?
I mean, I can go on and on. Look, I think the basics was I wasn't going to make excuses for why it didn't work out, right? I was going to figure out, okay, hey, where were my blind spots? What can I do better if I get the next opportunity? And part of that happened to be just being able to come here and being part of this organization and, sit in the QB room and just learning a new offense. And so a lot of that was just understanding the relationships of the players and getting around the guys. And, I think as coaches, sometimes we try to get the perfect play, and we realize that, oftentimes it's really hard to get guys open in this league, right? Sometimes your guys have to make plays. And so just realizing that I can trust our guys, that they're going to deliver, and give them that ownership. And I think the genius lies in the players. It's definitely not the coach.
Because some people don't learn from failure, and some, there's a stubbornness there. How did you allow yourself to become open to other thoughts, other ideas?
I think that's growth, right? Like, no matter what, if you're a coordinator for 20 years, you got to be growing your offense and, developing. And if you try to do the same offense you do, your guys are going to figure that out. And so I think that's just part of growth, regardless of having success or not. You got to find ways to just kind of evolve, because everybody else is trying to. When offenses are having success, people are studying you. When defenses are having success, you're studying the defenses. And so, hey, how can you evolve so that you kind of stay ahead of the race? And so I think all coaches just trying to develop.
And just lastly, in that sense, I mean, the success that you had running the ball yesterday and over the past couple of weeks, How much do you think that really opens up the offense to be able to do multiple things and keep defenses off balance? How much do you think that opens up the offense to more things?
I mean, it's as much as you can play two-dimensional football, it makes life a lot easier. I'm just in general, right? You're a defense. You want to know that you can get in 3-point stance and just rush after the quarterback because they're passing it, or like in a 2-minute third down situation, right? And so as much as we can stay ahead of the chains and be two-dimensional where we can run it or pass it, I think is only an advantage for us. And so, we have the best offensive line coach in the league, and does such a great job at the run game and getting those guys to understand how we're attacking blocks, how we're approaching blocks, and why we're doing what we're doing. And so yesterday was just evident of that. And as much as we can stay on schedule, which we were able to do yesterday, allows us to just continue calling it.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Hey, Joe, your offensive line goes from Micah Parsons to Khalil Mack. Why do you feel confident heading into this matchup, knowing that they did a great job against Micah Parsons last night?
Yeah, I mean, I think, every week, every week in the NFL, right, the D line is absolutely stacked. And, there's always people that are going to be able to present issues. But I just think it's the mindset and the approach of our guys, that they do a great job preparing and understanding, hey, how to approach the blocks like I just talked about, or, in a case of Micah yesterday about how much he moved around, and a guy like Khalil Mack, when you got 15 sacks, you have to understand where he is at any given time and making sure you're trying to get 4 hands on him or whatever you have to do. And so I think the way that our guys prepare and they understand, kind of their issues and, the threats that come with it, I think that they'll be able to have success with it.
And then knowing what James Cook and the offensive line did last night, what they're capable of, what is the challenge for the group as you guys close out the regular season and then hopefully make a push into the playoffs too?
I think the biggest thing is that, yesterday was a win, but it has nothing to do with today and has nothing to do with this game on Saturday, right? And so, regardless of the success we had in the run game yesterday, we're going to have to bring it in and have that same approach when we come in the building tomorrow, and know that we're going on the road. And records don't matter this time of the year. Stats don't matter this time of the year. It's the NFL, and we're going to have to bring our A game to be able to win this game on Saturday. And so I think that that's the biggest thing, moving forward with it.
Thanks, Joe.
Hey, Joe, I hope you're well. I think it's been touched on a little bit, but when you prepare all week and you go into a game or even go into a series having an idea what you want to do, how difficult is it to kind of adjust on the fly and, if something's working, just kind of stick with it and kind of go away from whatever you had planned?
Look, I think when it's working, it's a lot easier to stick with it. But I think a lot of it also has to do with the trust in your coaches and the communication with your players and the coaches. Like the guys did a great job on the sidelines yesterday of like, hey, the guys are liking this, or hey, man, stick with this. So it's not just a one-man operation, right? Like, we're very collaborative of, an offensive staff and the players. Like, I want them on the sidelines. Like, I want them talking about what they want. And so it makes it a lot easier to call the plays when I know the guys want it or when coaches are recommending it.
When you have all kinds of information at your fingertips, and you're kind of trying to play a chess game, how difficult is it at times to kind of just keep it simple instead of, maybe I'm going to call this because I think they're going to do this, or if I call this, they're going to try and counter it, so I should call something else. Like, how difficult is it sometimes to just kind of keep things simple?
Look, I think when you have Josh Allen, sometimes you can just let him kind of be great and not try to make it too complicated, right? And just in general with the rest of our guys, like I think sometimes just lining up and being able to, put the ball down and let our guys go win in one-on-one matchups is makes actually life a lot easier for the guys than trying to, move guys around, motion this, shift this, and hope to get this look. And, the odds of getting that is sometimes slim. And so sometimes it's just line up and let our guys go in. And, yesterday the guys were able to do that.
Shortly after you took over as offensive coordinator, you talked about kind of doing everything with a purpose. How much does that go into getting your running backs involved in the passing game as more than just a check down or an outlet if the first or second reads aren't there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's critical. At the end of the day, we have 5 offensive linemen, right? And they're the only ones that aren't eligible. And if they have to defend 6 guys on any given snap, Josh included, I think it makes it a little difficult on defenses, right? Our job as offensive coordinators is to limit a defensive player's call sheet, right? And the more that we get guys out on throwing the ball to the running backs, throwing the ball to the tight ends, it's hard to get everybody the football, and that's the reality of it. But as much as we're spreading it out, and doing those things, it makes it a little tougher on the defense. And so that's just we've been fortunate the running backs have been able to cash in on the opportunities, and hope that they can do that moving forward.
And then just lastly, how much has that thinking led to Ty Johnson's increased playing time?
Yeah, I think just in general, I mean, playing time is earned, and Ty's done a great job of showing that hey, he needs to be out on the football field. And it's the work that he put in since he's been here. He got in here late in training camp, and we saw him for one preseason game, and just seeing how he approached practice when he was on the practice squad, and nothing goes unnoticed in his work ethic and his preparation, and it's led to success. And so that's what I've been so excited about, that running back room, just the way that they kind of approach things and prepare. And that's why I guess days like yesterday, make it exciting to see kind of their work kind of show.
Thanks.
Hey, Joe. I was curious, obviously you've been asked a lot about the run, but I was curious yesterday during the game, was there a moment when you were like, oh yeah, like we can keep going with this, like they're not stopping like this? Was it like a play or a drive when you realized like we're going to be able to run the ball pretty much as we would like to?
I mean, I think there was never like a moment where I was just like, oh man, we're good to go. I mean, at the end of the day, all it takes is one negative run and you're behind the chains and you're having to, kind of get back into it and stay out of third down. But yesterday was just a product of the confidence in the offensive line, and the mentality that they were kind of playing with, and the way that they were finishing. Seeing Deion Dawkins finish a block, downfield as far as he did, and just seeing the way that the energy that they were after, scoring touchdowns. It was like, hey, that made it a lot easier. Not as opposed to like, hey, I can just call this and guarantee it's going to work. It was just seeing the way that they were playing, made it a lot easier just calling those.
And I know obviously on a different subject, Josh didn't throw a lot of passes last night, but he did set a record for passing and rushing touchdowns in games in a season. And I was curious what you've kind of seen from him in these 4 games since you took over as OC. Have you seen anything different in Josh? Is your relationship with him kind of the same? Like, I was just curious what these last 4 games, like working with Josh in this new role, have kind of been like.
I mean, I've loved it. It's been it's a lot of fun being able to call plays with him as your quarterback, right? And knowing that, hey, he's an eraser, right? I think there's plays out there yesterday that weren't good plays, right? And Josh Allen makes it right. And so there's a lot of confidence in that, and knowing that, hey, our quarterback can really do anything, and seeing how he is, even when we're not throwing the football, like all he cares about is winning. And I have that same mindset, and our guys have the same mindset. And so had a lot of fun with it. I'm enjoying, just seeing him, just, the way he's playing, he's scoring in the run game, pass game. It really doesn't matter. And I know he's having a lot of joy playing ball right now.
Last thing from me, I was just curious, when you, after games now with Josh, like when you guys sit down and discuss, the plays that were called and stuff, what kind of is that process like? Is a lot of like, I like this, I didn't like this, like just how does that work in general?
Yeah, I mean, I just think in general, and a lot of it was fortunate, right? Being the QB coach and just the open dialogue, having a good feel of, kind of what he likes and what he doesn't. And at the end of the day, if there's something Josh Allen doesn't like, or a throw that he might not think that plays very good, take it out, right? And at the end of the day, he's pulling the trigger. So, we have a lot of dialogue early in the week about, hey, plays, hey, would you rather this or this? And because at the end of the day, those guys got to go out there and actually throw the ball and deliver. So, we come in after a game and kind of just kind of go through it and kind of give thoughts on, hey, if we play these guys again, if we do this again, what would you do differently? But throughout the week, it's just open communication. So on game day, he kind of knows what I'm thinking, and I kind of know what he's thinking.
Cool. Thanks, Joe.
Hey, Joe, to follow up on Josh, he joked after the game that he felt like it was a group project where he did nothing and still got an A, which I think takes away a little bit from what he actually did in the game. But just, when he has a game that he kind of, when he has a game like that, do you guys have any different communication within the game of like you reminding him anything of just like, he obviously wants to win, but it's such an unusual game for him. Does the conversation change at all?
No, I think you watch him, when you watch, one of the perks of being in the box is you get to see everybody, you get to see the sidelines, see kind of the communication with it, right? being observant of that. But just I know that Josh wants to win, and then when I see some handoffs, and as soon as he hands the ball off, he's carrying on his fake, and then the ball cuts back, and he's going to find a block. That's when I'm like, you know what, he's I don't have to worry about anything right now. Like he's as bought into the run game as possible, right? And so there's times where we had a long drive, and you know we only asked him to throw twice, got on the headset, and he was like, man, just keep calling it. So he's entirely bought in, and I think so are the guys into him. And you know he knows that the way that he plays, right, everybody's going to kind of follow him. And so just seeing the way that he was working yesterday when it wasn't just the pass game, I think was cool to see.
Awesome. And then I was wondering, your vantage point of Steph's one-handed catch on 3rd down, I think it was, and then like replays of it as well, just kind of what it was like watching that live and afterwards as well.
Yeah, so obviously great play call, right? You got a guy coming right off the edge free, Josh Allen go make a guy miss, and Steph Diggs go just make a one-handed catch exactly like we had it designed. But no, I mean that's who Steph Diggs is, right? You know, he makes incredible plays. It doesn't matter whether it's raining, game on the line, you know, find your best player. And regardless of what the score is, Josh scrambles around, he steps full speed, and he throws up and goes, makes a play, you know, on the field that, you know, it's hard to really tell if, you know, if he catches it. I'm thankful for the whole crowd going crazy that that was really the only way I knew that he caught it. But that's who Steph Diggs is, you know, unbelievable football player.
Sweet. Thank you so much.
Here we go. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Coach Brady. George Radney, Challenger Community News. How you doing this afternoon?
Well, how you doing, bud?
Question, what is it, the energy that you bring? Because most of the guys that come on from James Cook and some of the offensive linemen, and especially Deion Dawkins in the offensive line, they say you bring a lot of energy to the room and with the guys. And I'm just wondering, where does that come from? Where's that energy that you have come from for the offense to bring that to the offensive room?
Yeah, look, I have a passion for this. Like I don't coach just because I feel like I have to do it. Like I love doing this. And so I don't love just sitting in my office and just being able to just watch tape all day and try to game plan. Like I love being around the guys and communicating with the guys and being out on the practice field and installing. Like I love that. And so it's not don't get me wrong, there's some caffeine involved, but there's not it's not a fake energy. Like I love it. And I think that that's important. And whether it's a fake it till you make it type of mindset, it's not. It's go out there and, you know, I think if they see the passion that I have and the love that I have for this game and doing what I'm doing, you know, maybe that they'll kind of mimic that.
And how important is it to you to have a line that's been together for the season? That, knock on wood, the guys they played every down together. How important is that to have the continuity with the offensive line?
It's huge. It's huge. Run game and pass game where Josh knows. Unfortunately, we have guys that are, you know, behind those guys, David Everett and Bates and guys that we feel full confidence that they have to go in there, they're going to be able to have success. But knowing how the pocket's going to be, knowing, you know, with those guys communicating if they're in any double teams or, you know, combination blocks of playing with the same guy over and over. I mean, it is huge. And I know it's rare in this league. And I'm grateful that, you know, we've had the same 5 guys this year, and I hope to keep that going forward.
All right. And one last question for you. And what is the athleticism of your line too? Between Morris being able to move, Deion Dawkins being able to pull, and you having the guys do a lot of creative blocking now that I've seen that I hadn't seen in quite a while with the Bills offensive line.
Yeah, look, I think it's, you know, we always talk, you know, from a pass game standpoint is, hey, how can you put your players in position to have success and, you know, get this person running this route? But it's really no different from a run game standpoint in approaching blocks and how guys can block. And that's what Coach Cromer does such a great job of, just utilizing what, you know, skill sets of his offensive linemen and knowing, and then of knowing what they do well and how to put those guys in those positions based upon how we can set a front or, you know, or you know, some other characteristics. And then, you know, Brandon Beane just putting together those guys where, you know, this is the type of offense line was built for this time of year, right? And so being able to rely on them and them just kind of taking it and kind of running with it was, you know, I think is important. It was fun to see.
All right, thanks for your time, Coach. Good luck this coming Saturday. Good luck.
Yeah, appreciate it.
That's all the questions for today. Thanks, Joe.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Hi, Coach Washington. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Great. We will go ahead and get started with questions. First question will be from Catherine.
Hey, Eric. Just wanted to see what you thought about the defensive line as a whole yesterday.
Very pleased with the performance, what we were able to do in terms of generating pressure against the quarterback. There were a couple of things in the run game that I thought were a little leaky. That, you know, as far as our gap control, our gap clarity was concerned, but the effort was fantastic. The awareness was there. So just overall, I thought they were good and looking forward to continue to improve.
When we were talking to Leonard Floyd after the game last night, he kind of referenced how, you know, no team picked him up until, what was it, June, how he's kind of doing like a bet on yourself deal. Just how often do you see that mentality from him where he kind of carries that chip on his shoulder a little bit into what he's doing in games?
Well, my first impression of Leonard was that he is extremely competitive, and whatever's motivating or driving that, you know, that's for him to respond to. But I just know that he's very competitive, which is a great trait to have for a person that has to win one-on-one. He's been the same from day one, very focused, very intense in practice. He wants to get to the quarterback. He wants to make a difference in that way, but he also takes pride in other aspects of his game, the things that sort of the dirty work type of things that you have to do. So, you know, his demeanor has been consistent, and the results speak for themselves. We're very happy that he chose to come here, that we were able to work with Leonard.
I know we talked about this like earlier when he joined the team, but with a veteran like Leonard Floyd, where do you see that impact other guys on the line now that it's been, you know, this far into the season?
Well, you know, the production, when a person is consistently productive the way Leonard has, that's a motivating factor. Guys they want to respond in kind, and they want to find ways to be a part of that, to generate their own production within the context of our scheme, and just that raw desire to want to make a difference in the ball game. And so there's a positive influence going on with Leonard that has had a ripple effect in the room. But at the same time, Leonard is a very unselfish guy. He's the type of person that's an explosive personality, single-minded, but he doesn't go outside of the scheme to get things done. And that's the best part of what he's been able to do in terms of his sack production and other aspects of his game. He's helped our defense.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ryan, you're up next. You can unmute yourself.
Hey, Eric, two things for you. With Jordan's injury, Poona Ford may get a shot to play this week. What do you look for behind the scenes when a veteran isn't playing, that he remains locked in the meetings and also on the practice field?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, Poona Ford has been inactive for quite a while now. If he does get a chance with Jordan being injured, how ready do you think he'll be to play well?
I don't think I know that Poona will be absolutely ready to go, ready to make a difference from his position to execute within our scheme. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that the best thing about Poona, in addition to his talent and what he could do, is his professionalism. You know, Poona has remained steadfast from day one. He's prepared himself every week to play, regardless of you know, the final decisions that are made as far as the 46 to 48 man roster is concerned. And so I'm excited to watch him go out and to jump right in and to have a significant impact on the defense.
Final thing for me, Dodson, another 8-tackle game for him last night. From when he got into the lineup, where has he made his biggest strides this season?
The gap control, the gap control, the run fit part of his game, his run fit clarity, the speed in which he's able to diagnose the run game has been phenomenal. And he's a physical presence once he establishes himself at the point of attack, or once he addresses the ball carrier, and also the communication. I mean, that position has to be a primary and a secondary communicator with respect to getting the defense set and talking about checks and adjustments before the ball is snapped. He has really picked that up. His confidence is at an all-time high, and it's exciting to watch him establish a physical presence for us out there.
Okay. Thanks, Eric.
You bet.
Hi, Eric. It seems like the last couple of weeks, Greg Rousseau is really kind of flashing, particularly against the run, whether it's penetration or setting the edge. Where do you see his biggest growth or his development as a run defender?
Playing, when you're 6'7", and I was mentioning the other day, I believe Greg has grown an inch. I can't document that, but he seems even taller now than he was when he got here. But when you're that tall, you have that much length, and you are a linear player. The biggest challenge, I think, is playing with the right type of pad level and the right type of leverage against whoever is assigned to you as a blocker. And that's a challenge when you're that tall. It's great if you're playing basketball, but in football, you have to be able to take what you're naturally assigned with and use it to win. And Greg's doing a really good job of bending his knees, of playing with good leverage, using his hands, getting off blocks. And the TFL that he attained the other night was also a function of Greg not giving the offensive tackle any information that he was slanting across his face, which is a key element to stunt fundamentals. When we want to change the hitting points, Greg gave the right tackle no information. So as far as he was concerned, he was going to reach his outside shoulder, and Greg made a nice move across his face. It was a sign, and he got vertical and made the play. So there's all these little details, hidden details, that Greg has a really great command over.
Sometimes guys who are naturally gifted like him don't always use all the tools that they've been given naturally. And obviously he's got some really long arms. Has it been, I guess, a challenge over the years to kind of get him to understand just how much of an asset they can be in keeping blockers off of him and having violent hands when he does?
A challenge as far as coaching Greg? Absolutely not. Greg is the type of person that, for me, you dream of working with. He's responsive, he's responsible, and he puts forth great effort as we continue to address our fundamentals every single week. The things that were important to us and to him in April when we started going out on the field are still emphasized, and Greg still resets and tries to put forth those things every single week to build the type of habits and the type of consistency that you have to have. So there are no challenges coaching Greg. I mean, he's the type of person that you just love working with because he's there, he's present every day. He gives you maximum effort, every single thing that he has.
He got to the quarterback yesterday, but the sacks are kind of still coming around. Is there an area you think he needs to improve on, or do you think that's something that's just eventually going to come the way that he's playing right now?
Well, sure. With a talent like Greg, you want to see him. I want to see him maximize his ability to get hits on the quarterback and to continue to make a difference. And you get spoiled because you see him do things, and you want those things to continue to present themselves. And so, Greg is his own worst critic, and we continue to find ways to get to our assignment, to recognize different situations quicker, so that we can impact the play ahead of the play as opposed to with the play. And so, just overall fundamentals and just awareness and making sure you're getting back there to the quarterback in a passing situation as fast as possible.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, good afternoon, Coach. George Radney, Challenger Community News. How are you doing this afternoon?
Doing well, thank you. Good afternoon.
Excellent, Coach Washington. Thank you for this time. Question, yes. I just was noticing the practice squad, Eli Anku, who's had some significant playing time in the past with the team. How's he's progressing, as well as Andrew Brown, the other defensive tackle that you have on the practice squad?
Absolutely. We're glad to have Ely back. I mean, he was signed away from us for a few weeks, and now we were able to get him back. And Ely is on the ready. He does a good job in practice. Veteran player, knows how to play, has played in multiple schemes. This one is different than some of the other defensive concepts that he's been a part of. So he's ready to go. Big, strong player, but also can give you things initially. He can give you quickness up the field, and he can be extremely disruptive. Andrew Brown, really excited to have him. Explosive player. He's got a lot of strength, a lot of functional strength, great in the meeting room, smart, a lot of things that he can pull from in terms of experiences. And he's also a person that we wouldn't hesitate to turn to if we had to. So really glad to have both of those guys in the room, not only for what they mean for us defensively, but what they do every single week to help our offense get ready to play.
Excellent, Coach. Thank you for your time and have a great week. Good luck this coming Saturday.
Thank you.
Coach Washington, Mookie Hawkins, Buffalo Sports 1080. How you doing today, sir?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm great. Victory Monday, as usual. Just care to talk about, again, I was talking to Coach McDermott about this, that good symmetry between rush and coverage, yesterday. Just care to talk about it in your eyes, your thoughts.
Well, with our rush, especially the 4-down rush, the coverage is a huge part of what we're able to do in terms of affecting the quarterback. And when our coverage concepts force the quarterback to hold the ball, if he's not really sure where he wants to go with the football, if he's trying to process through his reads, then that is a tremendous asset to the rush. And we have to make sure that we have to make sure that we're getting back there with maximum quickness, and we rely on our coverage to kind of cloud, to make the reads cloudy for the quarterback, which those things were really working yesterday. We got a chance. I think the first sack that we got, he held the ball for 5 seconds. So he wasn't sure. And fortunately, the rushers just kept working, and they were able to form a nice trap around the quarterback. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about those two entities being in sync.
Absolutely, Coach. And how important is it, and how dangerous could it be for this defense to, be in sync during this 3-game stretch heading into the playoffs?
Well, we look forward to just continue to improve. Yesterday was you feel great after a game like that, but at the same time, we're gonna remain humble, remain hungry, go back to the preparation process, and just rebuild ourselves back to the point where we feel like we can replicate that. And we got a tough challenge ahead of us this week, and we have to respect that. I know the guys will, and so you just take it one step at a time. And it was great to get that result. And right now, in a short week, we've got to start over and become extremely familiar with an opponent that can put up some numbers, especially if we're not on top of our game.
Absolutely. And then just talking into that, how do you get those guys focused and locked in after coming off such a big win? But we know that the Chargers coming in with a coaching change, so it may give them a little spark at home. How do you, prepare for it not being a trap game?
Well, the guys understand that this is the National Football League, and it's the best of the best. Records don't matter, and personnel changes don't matter, whether they're on the coaching side or the player side. We have to, if a player is out there, they belong out there. We have to find a way to create separation individually and with our group and with our unit. And so, we know that we won't get any benefit or credit for what we did yesterday on Saturday night. So the guys really embrace that. They're extremely professional, and they'll come in tomorrow, and we'll start that process of becoming familiar with the Chargers offense, all of their personnel, and the things that they've done extremely well. And we have to find a way to stay out in front of that. So the guys will come in ready to go with a great mindset tomorrow.
Absolutely, Coach. Thank you for your time. Good luck on Saturday. Enjoy the holidays.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
That's all the questions for today. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, Coach.
You're welcome.